afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know who he was talking about. I don't know that lady at all. I was just being me, if I was honest. My background, I was born in Liverpool. I was born in a community where you help your neighbours. It was given. It really was. It was, it was given. Some of the opportunities that have been given to me, I just took, didn't think about it. So there's no diplomacy there, just me, thinking I can get away with stuff. So the United Nations, PFAD, civil society, they're new things. They've been created in the modern times. But I'm over 60, so I'm on the Council of Elders. As I say, I can remember a time when every second country part of the Commonwealth, every second country seemed to be British. And if you know Liverpool, if you know the UK, we're a melting pot of countries, religions, beliefs, and everything else. And we tolerated it. In Liverpool, I can't think of a nationality or a religion that wasn't represented. So you just got on with it, but you live side by side. A bit shaky, but side by side. So, thank you for the invitation. Definition. Cultural diplomacy is a type of soft power that includes the exchange of ideas, information, art, language, and other aspects of culture amongst nations and their peoples in order to foster mutual understanding. The purpose of cultural diplomacy is for the people of a foreign nation to develop an understanding of ideals and institutions in an effort to build broad support for economic and political objectives. Well, I didn't follow any of that, but hey, got me there. Richard T. Ardent, a former State Department cultural diplomacy practitioner, said, "Cultural relations grow naturally and organically without government intervention." Remember that, without government intervention. The transactions of trade, tourism, student flows, communications, book circulations, migration, media access, intermarriage, millions of daily cross-culture encounters. Sometimes it's just by default. You're practicing cultural diplomacy and you don't know it. This exchange is then intended to foster a mutual understanding and thereby, with influence within the target nation, cultural diplomacy derives its credibility not from being close to government institutions, but from its proximity to cultural authorities. And these references are in Wikipedia if anybody wants to follow them up. So I asked, how can I put that into my words and my journey? And my journey started when I went on a holiday visit to Gambia. Gambia belongs to the Commonwealth. Anybody who's travelled from Britain to a Commonwealth country, you're in Little Britain. The children wear the same uniforms, they have the same maths curriculum. In fact, some of them have better maths curriculum than us at the time, probably still do. And they drink tea. Different types of tea, but they have tea ceremonies like we have tea ceremonies. If you go to the French colonies, they have coffee. That's a cultural differences. There we go. So I wanted to meet with the locals, so I put in place the norms that everybody who's traveling from wherever you're traveling to your foreign place, do your homework. I did mine, and I said, let me find out who's here that I can log into when I go there, and I found the Seroptimists. For some of you, I would suggest the Rotarians, because they're all over the place. Those two groups, I define you to find a country where they're not represented somehow, some way, some factor. All the religions are represented. That's not a problem. But not everybody has an embassy. So you might need to tap into something that is not there. Okay? British embassy's in your face. US embassy's in your face. But that's a given. But sometimes it's not always easy to get to, and it's a bit formal. So tap into something that you can tap into. If you're going to be grassroots, be cultural, and your time is limited, sometimes you have to go with what's there. Also, know the reason for your journey. Mine was to help a village. Mine was to help the locals. Mine was to help the community. I wasn't setting up a shop. I wasn't doing anything like that. That was not my intention. My intention was to help small and to grow large. So as I say, I tapped into the Soroptimists, and they introduced me to 1 or 2 villages. And in the African countries, you have naming ceremonies. I got invited to so many naming ceremonies, customary ceremonies. And you go with a small gift, which is the bag of rice. You know what I mean? You sort of know in advance what you want to do. So I started asking the women, what was it they'd like to do? How can I help you? And it just evolves. And everywhere I've gone, not even in Gambia, I've gone to the Mediterranean countries, the women are always doing. When I look back on it, the women were always doing. They were always sewing. They were always, that small marketplace, small place. And I said, and she said, look, can you pay for the market license? And I didn't understand what she meant about the market license. So in the markets in some of these countries, forget the market here. The market there could be 12 tables, and it's chaotic, but it works. But what I didn't understand were the parameters of a market owner charging the ladies for, say, this space, a license. But if I could pay the license for them, they have a space to trade. So I was like, okay, so how much was it? And at the time when I first went in 2009, 2011, I was rich. The pound was king. It was great. It was $2 to a pound. I could go anywhere. I was so rich. To them, not to me, but to them, I was so rich. So I started to pay market licenses so the women could trade. But the women had the stuff to trade. They were growing their own vegetables. They were making their own clothes. They were doing it. They just needed to get into where the customers were and have a lead. So when I went back 2 years later, I was so shocked because this lady, she'd saved the money and she'd bought land. So they had that vision. So the cultural diplomacy was me following what they wanted and not giving them what I thought they wanted. And that's about the communication. But the women knew business. It wasn't about reading or writing or everything. You can go to any of these villages, and maths-wise, these women are, you know what I mean? It's here in the head, maybe not so much on the writing. So I said, okay. Then the next thing, because I was interested in education, I wanted to meet a school teacher. Somebody in the village introduced me to the school teacher. And he said, look, if you can help us, this is what we want. He had a corner space like this. And he said, I want to put shelves here and make this space the library. And I'm thinking, a room like a library, red brick, da-di-da-di-da. No, put the books where they can be got by the children. So when I came back, I sent books. When I went back later on, he'd made the space bigger and put in 2 tables and a space. And I said, so what's this now? He said, this is the homework room. And I still didn't get it, but to them it was a value to the school because the girls especially could then stay in and study. They didn't have to go home and try and study while it's busy, the family. And then the parents would say, okay, if you're staying in school, you're staying in to do something, so it became the homework school. But another teacher who had a vision, he said, I have a bigger room. His room was about half the size of this. He said, I have 3 bookshelves. So sending the books wasn't a problem, but I couldn't see the vision beyond the library. They could see the vision. So what I'm trying to get at is tap into their vision and see how you can help them with their vision, not so much your vision. Because if you help them with your vision, trust me, your vision will come because they will see that you're helping, you're not taking. It's a two-way thing. So the gentleman who had the school, it was Apple Tree School, and I always remember I came back and he'd had bookshelves, and I'd introduced him to some tourists from the hotel. And the tourists from the hotel all went to the school with me. They all agreed to sponsor a child, and it was, at the time, it was £15 a year to sponsor a child in the school, which is not a lot. And most agreed to do that. So he's got income coming in for the school. But the room I'd helped with the 3 bookshelves and the tables and everything, he'd signed up to make it and register it with the Gambian government as an evening school for adults. He got registered. From the time you're registered with the government, you can apply for funding. So is that win-win-win? I said, oh, okay. So the adults, the elder adults, they could come, they can pick up their reading and writing, they can learn new schools, etc. I put him in touch with some college here in the UK, and they had a correspondence course going on. So he was licensed to teach in this school that I didn't, in my head, couldn't see working, but I could see his idea. So going back to the cultural things, don't go back thinking, oh, I can't do anything. Just have that mellow conversation. Have the cup of tea. Have it. Have the Benachin. If you're in Gambia, I totally recommend you have the jollof rice and the Benachin. And try the attire. It's an acquired taste, but it's really nice. So the second thing then that happened, and I wanted my NGO, and it's very strict to get an NGO properly recognised by some of the African governments. So they expect you to have 12 people of the local community who can vouch for you, a bank statement, and 2 people who are going to be partners. I got that within 5 days because of what I had been doing over the 2 years. So having the NGO and having these people meant that it wasn't through me they got the assistance. They got the assistance through the embassies because they were then registered as the NGO. So it was the ripple effect, is what I'm saying, of your visit being there. Because sometimes the cultural diplomacy for some people can be a minefield. I'm a Christian. You go to Gambia. Gambia is an Islamic state. It's Islamic. It's Muslim. And they had this tabaski. I haven't got a clue what tabaski is. Everybody looks fabulous. The food's off the chart. I couldn't get arrested. You go in here. There's meals. There's meals. There's meals. It was a level, and nobody cared. Nobody, you know what I mean? Don't go with your like this, that kind of thing. Sometimes you have to let it go, be a bit mellow, and go with it. So one of the issues that really helped the government, but they did it, Gambia, I don't know if people remember, there was a program on the UK television called Roots about a gentleman who found his family, Kunta Kinte, and it was set in Gambia. Well, the government wanted to cancel it because they said, we don't see the point of it, because the numbers had gone down. So I said, well, the numbers have gone down because the TV show stopped. But they couldn't relate the TV show to the numbers. So there was a few of us in the diaspora, and we said, look, put it on. Whether 20 come, 200 come, don't worry. You have to not stop what was already there. So we said, look, here's what you're going to do. You're going to put on one full formal dinner, one formal trip, and one formal procession. I said, it's not so much for us. I said, but wherever we go as a diaspora, when we go to the craft market on the bus for 2 hours, when we get there, we spend money. That village makes money. It's as simple as that. It's an exchange. Don't cancel it because you're not thinking. I said, secondly, once you advertise it, people from other countries will come. They did. They charged £5 a head for every person that came in off a plane. That was cash. That was a visa to come in. The second thing that happened was we said, if you announce it for the next year, people will start booking. They still couldn't say, I said, go ahead, just do it, just announce it. So they did, and people started to book. But it was that cultural thing of don't cancel, me saying, no, you can't do that. Oh, that don't make sense. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. But trying to be very polite and diplomatic. And I said, look, tell me what you've got to lose for this and tell me what you've got to win for this. But we got them 2 sponsors, which they didn't think of. So I had to put a list of sponsors together for them. One was like Vodafone. So if anybody's going culturally, think of what would they want to link with. And the other was not Vodafone, Samsung. And there's some countries that really would like to break into a country. And if you can tie them with an event, it's a win-win situation. But culturally for you, you're supporting that benefits the people. So I'm not sure how many of you are doing your cultural trips or thinking, what should I do? What should I take? If you're going to a village, always take a gift. As I say, I've taken bags of rice, I've taken bars of soap, I've taken lollipops for the kids who love me to death because I've given them a lollipop or something. But always ask. Don't be afraid to ask, what gift should I bring? But bring something that they want, not what you think they want. that would be my first thing for you. Where you can, buy a gift back. If there's a little tourist place, buy something. Even if you buy it and you give it to the family. As simple as that. I assisted setting up the gardening project, which the ICOLA had given to 20 of the women. And what the thing was to do with the women is make them a cooperation, you're a corporation, and get yourself registered. But to register for them was like 25 English pounds. But again, once you're registered and you have your legal status and your stamp, you have your tax number, which I told the women to do. Whereas here we think it's not, but for them it might be, or they don't really want to go into the town hall to do it. With the men, we said, we gave them a small phone each. We got them free SIM cards. But again, because they became the cooperative for the North Bank region, they could get advice and help from the Chamber of Commerce, because they weren't dealing with 200 women or 20 women. They were just dealing with the one company. So it was taking my skills here to there in a way that they would understand, because I said the Chamber of Commerce, they would help you. Rotary Club could help them, because these bodies have money to help, but it's not money for the individual, which I understand that here, as an individual you can't get, but over there you still can't get. So it was just to help those little things to do that. On the benefits of the festival, the tourists spent money on the hotels, they paid taxes to the government and the visas, they all spent money on the restaurants, so that was money for the government. Media, the overseas media came over. A lot of people wanted to see, because when these villages, they dance and everything, it's anthropology. I mean, they had anthropologists coming from Finland and Norway, Sweden, Latin America, because South America wanted to see the link in the dancing. And some of these villages don't always come out to dance. It takes a big cultural thing to get, over 22 different sets of dancers to come. So that was a good media coverage. Repeat visitors, an average of 20% of the tourists they could return back. These are your facts for you. Politics, it established the British Embassy. People realised there was one. And also the Gambian embassy here got questions. The other group that was there, that was quite heavy, there was 2 groups that were there, and they were so on board, it was amazing, was the Lebanese government and the Taiwanese government. They shipped over bags of rice, they helped with school donations to build bricks and things like that. They got the publicity, but it made sense. So whatever you do, make it make sense to the villagers. So it's free publicity, so the neighbouring countries. Gambia runs through the middle of Senegal. So it's got the Casamance on either side, and then it goes Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and the other countries. Sponsorships, there was lots of sponsorships to be offered. So who won the argument? It wasn't about an argument. It was the downside of not holding the festival was the discussion. What's the downside? This is the downside: lack of money, lack of interest, lack of knowledge. You need to pick it up, but you don't have to be big in your face. You don't have to be the 10-day festival. You can be the 3-day festival. It would be harder to start it. Better to go with what you have. Don't lose track. So we had our media routes. Locals loved it. Media got the coverage, and tourism went up. The government were happy. Result, culture won. Sometimes, though, with culture, you can oversell. Just step back a little bit and wait till you're spoken. I never did that, so hey, what can I say? But yeah, overall, it was a win-win. Okay. Yeah, so over here, I'm an avid grassroots activist for what he's talking about. I worked with some of the minority groups. So in the UK, I worked with the groups that had no recourse for public funds, domestic violence, and immigration. And there were food banks set up. Food banks set up by people of African descent, for the religious groups and the politics groups. And I'll give you an example of one. My MP at the time was Neil Coyle for Labour, and he said, how can I help you and your underground families? So I said, they're not underground. I said, they just don't come forward and ask, and they're not entitled to the help legally, just because of certain situations. So I said, I want nappies. And he said, excuse me? I said, look, these families, they spend a fortune on nappies. I want nappies. So he put a call out to his constituents. We got the nappies, and the families got the nappies. And sometimes you just go with what the need is, like you said, was whatever. So yes, I did sort of put it on social media that if you need help, this is coming. I need all of you to stockpile now. Told him to stockpile every second day. You've got to stockpile. This is an oldie. This is this. You need to stockpile. You need to do this. And there was himself and about 10 others. And yeah, we looked after a number of families. So cultural diplomacy does work, but in my shape and form, it worked twice as hard. But thank you. Don't lose sight of your journey. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much again. Again, we've seen it from the academic world, from the world of the institutions of legislation and power, from the traditional kingdoms, and then a personal touch to it. It kind of gives you a flavor of the tools that one can use to bring solutions to human dignity and finesse. So at this particular time, as gentle as that was eased in as to how you can participate out of the bigger themes, because sometimes the bigger themes can make you feel dislocated, that you can't make impact. But everybody can make impact. Everywhere we go, it's about human beings. And it's about human dignity, human potential, and the ability for humans to thrive. And that's what cultural diplomacy keeps moving to do, to respect them as to what makes them resonate in life. And everybody can make a change. Even those little libraries make a change. May not make a significant change, but they do make a change to the recipients of it and make them wake up feeling that their life means something. So this particular time, we've got 10 minutes. If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to do so. Definitely, we do not kind of culturally entertain a second lecture in this, because 10 minutes won't be able to stretch into a second lecture. But any brief comments, any brief questions, please feel free to ask June Lewis. And thank you very much. I think she does deserve another round of applause.
Can I ask a question? Is anybody here planning on a cultural diplomacy trip, or just come back from one and needs a bit more advice? Okay. Are you going to or coming back?
No, I have to make a confession. My cousin has just built a hotel in the Gambia.
No, go, knock it out.
It's called St. Thomas Lodge.
Okay.
And he actually went to Jamaica. It's linking Jamaica and Africa.
Yeah, that's back to your roots.
Yeah, and he went to Jamaica and he smuggled stones out of Jamaica in his suitcase, in his trouser pockets, etc. And he's actually, the sign for St. Thomas Lodge is actually the stones from Jamaica. So in terms of that, there is the connection. And as I said yesterday, I've never set foot in Africa, but my cousin has invited me to a wedding in the Gambia on the 4th of January. So I will be stepping foot in Africa for the first time in 2025. So that's my confession.
Oh, I know. I must visit that. I must visit that hotel. Well done. Anybody else planning to go abroad or thinking of inviting people here and not too sure what to do? See, everybody's well advanced. There you go. I told you. You have a good audience.
Well, it looks like everyone is very content with the presentation. At least it gave you the tools of how you can get up in the morning and how you can engage and impact. So again, we'd like to thank June Lewis for your time and for your presentation. And we wish you all the best in your endeavors going forward. Again, let's give June Lewis a big round of applause.